This will be Barb and Perhaps writing the World Dressage Federation Level 1, Test 2. A. Enter at the working walk. Proceed down center line to X without halting. X to M, continue working walk along diagonal. M to H, working walk. Between H and S, begin leg yield left across center line, arriving on the quarter line between B and F. Continue working walk down quarter line to lower rail. At lower rail, turn right and proceed to K. K to V. Between K and V, begin leg yield right across center line, arriving on quarter line between B and M. Continue working walk down quarter line to upper rail. At upper rail, turn left and proceed to H. HXF, change rein, lengthening the horse's stride and allowing the horse to stretch forward and downward. F to A, develop working walk. A, circle right 15 meters in the working walk without losing the rhythm or swing of the gait. A to K, working walk. KXM, change rein, lengthening the horse's stride and allowing the horse to stretch forward and downward. M to C, develop working walk. C, circle left 20 meters in the working walk without losing the rhythm or swing of the gait. HXK, zigzag on straight lines at letters. A to F, working walk. F to X, working walk along diagonal. X, turn down center line. X to G, between X and G, halt, salute. Dismount, stand quietly for a moment. You may reward your horse. Take the reins over the horse's head and leave the arena, leading the horse at its shoulder. So let me take you through it again. This is going to be World Dressage Federation Level 1 Test 2. Thanks again to Barb for being such a good sport and doing this with us today. She had only ridden through this once, and then we did this, so she's done a great job of stepping up to the plate here. So she does a good job coming down the center line, and once again we see how the horse has a little bit of a tendency to want to get a little fast and slow. And so what we're always looking for is that perfection. So here we go on the diagonal, coming down the center line. I'm trying to avoid the pitfalls of many of the older tests in dressage that were asking young horses to do things that ended up cramming them into frames, or people would have to cram them together to try to make it through the test because of the small size, especially as horses got larger and larger. So I'm trying to avoid some of those pitfalls. And once again, to do a type of test that actually mimics how we train ourselves. So the test should actually be helping us to improve the horses as we go along if we've done a good job at what we do. So you could hear there she led a little bit too much with the hindquarters at first. And there's a little bit of unevenness, that there was a lot of crossing over, then not so much, because of course that would have been a bit of a fault. Now remember, in the scoring in our World Dressage Federation, you have a possible of 10 points for each movement. There are movements that are coefficients of 2, however, and we'll talk about those later on. Those are usually the stretching circles. So here she begins the leg yield. Now this would have been a fault here. She started out, she confused herself for a moment and started doing a half pass rather than a leg yield. So this should have been a leg yield. So I correct her there. That's why you see her talking to me. You remember when she's never gone through this, or we had one sort of quick run through before we did this. So good job. So she gets her straightened out there and gets a good leg yield by the time we get to the end of that. But once again, getting back to our scoring system, it's a system of 10 points possible for each movement. Those are broken down in 4 sections. The first point that you get is for whether the horse is over the back or not. If you don't get point number 1, you can't get any more points beyond that. So if you get a 0, because if you're not in a working walk and the horse is hollow, you're not in a working walk. So you get a 0 on the movement. So in this way, it's going to be a great thing for all of you, because this scoring system ensures that everyone showing and competing and doing well in the World Dressage Federation will have to be training their horses correctly. The wonderful thing for all of you to know is that means that, you know, all of you will be able to go and compete against people in standard dressage, you know, competitions, this sort of thing, but they will not be able to come and compete very well under our organization. I mean, once again, if you read the rule book in the actual dressage federations, it talks about everything that we talk about here. It's just that somehow these principles got left by the wayside in the last 20 or so years. So once again, breaking down the scoring system, you have 3 points that are possible for rhythm, 3 points for relaxation, and 3 points for accuracy. And once we really start scoring, there will also be, as far as judges goes, there will be half points possible in all movements at all times. So really good stretch here. This is a really nice walk. So he comes through here. Really lets the horse swing through. That's exactly what we're looking for. And how softly the horse comes back up out of the transition again. And that got to the right place. So if I was scoring that last movement, that was really very good. She stretched really deep into the contact. She stayed really relaxed throughout. Stayed quite straight. There was a little variance in the middle there where she seemed to get a little confused about which direction she was going to go. So there was a little bit variation there in that. So you'd have a little bit of a deduction there for that. But you would have had your first point because the horse was certainly over its back. The rhythm was varied a little bit. I wouldn't say it was perfect. I would have probably given that about a 1.5 really on that score, and then about a 1.5 your accuracy and other things. So that test, that movement in itself would have been, to simplify, 4 or 5, would have been a 5.5, let's say. Good through the corner there. See how nicely the horse stays soft. She has a little bit of variance in the frame, a little bit of variance in the rhythm every now and then. So in other words, in order to get a 10 on anything, you would have to be the horse would have to be over its back, and it would have to be pretty much perfect in the rhythm, perfect in the relaxation, and perfect in the accuracy. And what a beautiful halt she just came in. Like, that whole movement down that center line was absolutely lovely and straight, and she stepped right into a beautiful halt. And in these first level tests, we're adding this idea of getting off and giving the horse a reward in the ring, all with the idea that we want our test to continue to flow and educate the horses and the riders as they go, and create situations that will allow the horses to learn, which is what these foundation levels are all about. Now, the one thing she did wrong here, she left her stirrups down. So she should have pulled her stirrups up before she moved off. And she had her hands correctly with the reins there, but then she let that go and switched her hands to having the reins all in one hand. The reins should be in both hands. But what a great job. Thank you, Bob, so much for helping us out here and giving us a little run through that test.